Okay, it's 8:30 almost. We just woke up and the wind put the dust all over the tent. It's crazy. There's dust on Sanya's sleeping mat. How did you sleep?
Oh, it was many times at night, just like the wind was like boom, and I was like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And the dust was like in my eyes and everywhere, my face.
That sleeping mask is good. Okay, let's go.
Hello vegan adventurers, welcome to the second day of our biggest adventure in South America, hiking the Fitz Cerro Torre loop. Today we plan to go from Camp Ponceñot to Laguna Torre, through Laguna Madre and Hija, and after that we come back to El Chalten. This morning the top of Fitz is again in the clouds, even more than it was last evening, but we're hoping it's gonna clear up later in the day and we should be able to see Cerro Torre as well. After we fill the water in the stream, we're gonna have a quick breakfast, pack the tent and start hiking. So it's 10:46 and we've just packed our tent, so it's quite late, but we still see many tents around and people preparing to go for hiking. So must be lots of lazy hikers here. And now we're gonna hike for 2 hours alongside Laguna Madre and Hija until we get to the crossroad from El Chalten, and then 1 more hour till the Laguna Toro, and then 3 more hours back to El Chalten. So together that's 6 hours of hiking. So quite a long hike, but we have the whole day ahead of us. So let's go. So here we are at that crossroad that goes to that viewpoint Piedras Blancas, but we don't have time to go there. And today the Fitz is in the clouds anyway, so there will be no point to go there. So yesterday we got really lucky with a clear view of Fitz, at least till the Camp Ponceñot, which is really rare. Usually the Fitz is in the clouds. So check out yesterday's video to see for yourself. We are filling out our bottles one more time in this river because we are not sure if there is gonna be more streams before we get down to the lagoons. So here is the crossroad which I was showing you yesterday. So straight you go back to El Chalten where we came from yesterday, and on the left we're gonna go to Laguna Madre and Hija and Laguna Torre, and on the right you go to Laguna de los Tres and Camp Ponceñot. So if the weather stays like this and clouds are not gonna clear up, I doubt that we'll see Cerro Torre today. Cerro Torre is even harder to see than Fitz if it's cloudy weather. And this is also one of the last time we see Fitz today, as when we get behind this hill we won't be able to see it anymore. After the grasslands, the path started to go through this area of the small beech trees that kind of protected us from the strong wind, and we also started going by the side of Laguna Madre. Since we arrived to El Chalten, the wind been really strong and you can see how strong it is on the waves on the lake. So be prepared that when you come here the wind is gonna be incredibly strong. So the Laguna Madre is a pretty long lake, but the path doesn't go so close to it that you can fill your water there. So make sure that you fill your bottles beforehand like we did. And at the end of Laguna Madre we got rewarded with this awesome rainbow. After about 3 kilometers and 40 minutes from Camp Ponceñot, we arrived till the end of Laguna Madre, and this is the beginning of Laguna Hija. So Laguna Hija, unlike Laguna Madre, has access to it, so if you're running low on water, you can fill it from here. And it should be safe to drink as there are no any pollutants around here, there are no houses, there are no animals grazing or any factories, so it should be perfectly fine to drink. But we still had enough water, so we're waiting for some stream to be filled, because it's always better to fill water from running water than a still water. So it's almost 12 o'clock when we got till the end of Laguna Hija, so it took us about 1 hour to get here from Camp Ponceñot. After Laguna Hija, the path continued through the small beach forests and also through these grasslands, which are probably the result of livestock that was grazing here before this became a national park. So till now the path was going most of the time through the forests, so you don't see much view of the surrounding mountains. But on the other hand, it's really great to see trees and nature around and maybe even see some animals. Also another great thing here is that the path is really dry, so you don't get your feet muddy like you would get in Ushuaia or Puerto Williams. So it's almost 12:30 and we just stopped here for a little break, and the wind completely stopped and it got so warm that I even took my shirt off. So you see how much difference the wind is making in the temperature difference. And according to maps.me, this is another crossroad, so if you keep going with this path on the left, you should connect to Laguna Capri where we've been yesterday, but the path doesn't seem to be really visible. So this area we're going through next was really green and lush, so I guess it receives more rain, and some flowers reminding me of the spring in Europe. And here we spotted the Magellanic woodpecker again, so they are pretty common here. And this one has a black head, so this is a female on this branch. And we also saw a male down here with the red head. Magellanic woodpecker is the largest woodpecker in South America and third largest woodpecker in the world. They feed mainly on wood-boring grubs, which is like little larvae and worms, and adult beetles, as well as spiders. Occasionally, other foods may supplement the diet, including sap and fruits, as well as small reptiles, bats, and the eggs and nestlings of passerines, which are basically small bird species. Several potential predators are known, being almost exclusively avian raptors. These include white-throated hawks, variable hawks, bicolored hawks, golden eagles, and southern crested caracas. Alright, so after another half an hour of walking through the woods, we got out to this open space and we don't see any Cerro Torre, so today is the same situation as 2 days ago. So most of the mountains are in the clouds here, but we still see some hills and we're still gonna check out the Laguna Torre. And here we meet the couple that we saw in the outdoor shop when we were borrowing the sleeping bags. So they must have been doing the loop from the other side. Alright, so we finally arrived to this big crossroad. So we came from here, Camp Ponceñot, through Laguna Madre and Hija. And here on the left you go to Laguna Torre and Camp Agostini. And down here you go back to El Chalten, which takes another 2 hours, and distance around 6 kilometers, and we have 3 more kilometers to Laguna Torre, should take another hour, and we also need to have lunch, so that's at least another 5 to 6 hours including lunch break till we arrive back to El Chalten. So you always have to count how much you have so you don't come back in darkness. So the Laguna Torre should be just somewhere down here, over there. And you can also see the glacier behind it, but you can't see Cerro Torre and all the other higher peaks because they're all in the clouds. We are even worried it's gonna rain when we get there, so Sanya is even suggesting to come here another day, but we have other plans to do and it will be too boring to come all this way here again. And the weather like this in Patagonia is really common, so we are not even guaranteed we're gonna see Cerro Torre until we leave El Chalten. After about 1.4 kilometers from the crossroad and about 20 minutes of hiking, we arrived to another crossroad, and we see on the map that both of these ways goes to Laguna Torre, but the one on the left goes through Camp Agostini and the one on the right goes through Camp Prestadores. So we chose to go with the one on the left and come back with the one on the right. Soon after the crossroad, we arrived to this big river called Rio Fitzroy. So it's the same river as it's flowing just outside of El Chalten, and we need to refill our bottles as there are no other streams on the way here. But this river seems really muddy, probably from the rain that's up there. So we were better off filling our bottles at the Laguna Hija, which was much cleaner, but fortunately we have a water filter with us. So it's interesting how the weather can influence how much you're enjoying the hike. So yesterday the weather was really nice, we saw the clear Fitzroy and we were pretty much enjoying every part of it, taking breaks, taking pictures. And now we're just pretty much hiking just to get it done. We can't see much view, we are getting tired. Luckily sunshine still gets here somehow, so we feel quite comfortable for now. And it's always better to hike without perfect view than sit at home. So this river Fitzroy is quite big and muddy, so must be lots of rain up there. And looking at the size and the power of this river, I think it's even possible to do whitewater rafting here. And if I remember good, there are even companies doing it here. So I'm not sure why the name of this river is Rio Fitzroy when it comes from the Laguna Torre, and you can't even see Fitzroy from here. So we have only 1 more kilometer till the lagoon, and we're meeting many day hikers who just come here for 1 day till the lagoon and back to El Chaltén. Alright, so we're almost at Laguna Torre. We just got to this crossroad. So on the left we're gonna go to Camp Agostini to have lunch, and then after lunch we're gonna come back here and just get up there to Laguna Torre. So this is Camp Agostini. So this is where we would camp if we did the loop the other way, and we would have gotten a view of Cerro Torre yesterday, but we chose to go through Laguna de los Tres and have a view of Fitz. So here we are at the Camp Agostini cooking some rice mixed with some instant rice mix that we found in a shop. It's vegan and we haven't seen it anywhere else, but this is a great thing because it's lightweight. But we still would prefer maybe some bread with some hummus right now, because this took us at least half an hour till we cook it, till we prepare the stove to prime it and cook all the rice. And this is maybe better for dinner when you don't need to hike anymore, but now when we need to still hike, we would prefer something quicker. So when you're cooking with a camp stove, you have to add at least 1 hour to your hiking time till you cook it and eat it and wash all the dishes, etc. So I would just have some bread or burritos for lunch if you have lots of hiking to do in a day. Alright, so we have a final ascent to Laguna Torre, which is only like 10 minutes from Camp Agostini. And as we're getting closer, we notice a little rain, but we're still getting sunshine as well. So Laguna Torre should be just somewhere behind this hill. Alright, so we finally arrived to Laguna Torre, and as soon as we got up on this hill, we got hit with a very strong wind. And as you can see, Laguna Torre is much bigger than Laguna de los Tres, but unfortunately the views today are not as epic as we got yesterday at Laguna de los Tres. As you can see, the strength of wind is so strong that at times it can support all your body weight, even with a backpack. Even stronger than we experienced in Ushuaia. So as we had a little bit time left, we decided to walk on the left around the lagoon. And there is also a viewpoint called Mirador Maestri, which is on the right side, but we didn't have time for that. It would take like 1 hour one way. It's like 2.3 kilometers up the hill with 180 meters elevation. And as we were walking around the lagoon and I was recording, we got hit with the strongest wind gust I ever experienced in my life. Watch this. Wow, that was the strongest wind I ever experienced in my life. As you saw, I was leaning forward with all my body weight plus heavy backpack, and he was still pushing me back. And Sanya even had to lay down on the ground as he was blowing her away. And we were pretty much standing on a flat ground here. Now imagine if you were walking on some ridgeline or some steep terrain, or even climbing Fitz or Cerro Torre, and you get a wind gust like this. It must be pretty dangerous. So we got here pretty much till the end of the path, and from here you would have to have permission from National Park and the proper equipment for crossing this river over the zip line, as you can see. And then the path continues towards the glacier and maybe even more. And there are more zip lines over the river like this one in this national park. One is at that loop where you go through Paso del Viento. So to me, Laguna Torre looks like a one big quarry for a rock excavation. So especially on this side, it really looks like some big rock excavation site from the past. But I don't think it was, because we didn't see any big roads here for trucks or anything, and it could have been made by a glacier. So here we got another big gust of wind, and Sanya had to lay down again, so you can see how strong this wind is. And it's already 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so we really need to start heading back to El Chaltén, as we have 3 more hours of descent. And now, as I mentioned before, we're gonna connect back with the other way through the other campsite. So even though we didn't get a view of Cerro Torre and other high peaks, I would still recommend to come here to Laguna Torre, as you can still see the glacier here, and the path itself to here, it's really nice going through the woods. So after walking a few more minutes on this ridgeline along the lake, we got to the crossroad where you go back to El Chaltén, and we got even better view of the glacier. And if you keep going straight here, you can get to the viewpoint Maestri, which is another 2 more kilometers with 150 meters elevation, so it'll take you around 40 minutes one way. Right, so the final view of Laguna Torre, and we are heading down to El Chaltén. We have about 9 kilometers and 230 meters of vertical descent, which is not that much, but it's still gonna take around 3 hours. After about 10 minutes from the lagoon, we got to this little stream, and we're gonna fill our bottles again. So it's always better to fill your water from the running streams than from the still lakes. And the Laguna Torre was also quite murky, so even though it can be drinkable, it's better to fill from the stream. Soon after the stream, we arrived to this campsite called Camp Prestadores de Servicios, and I think this campsite is only for bookings, so people who don't want to carry tent and they just pay some money and can sleep here, or maybe it's also for some researchers. So as I said before, even though we didn't see much view, just walking through this forest is worth the hike. After less than half an hour from Laguna Torre, we arrived back to this crossroad, where on the left we went to Camp Agostini, and now we came back with this road on the right from Camp Prestadores, so you can make a nice loop here. And as I said before, if you don't want to carry tent, you can sleep at that campsite there, but you have to research more how much it costs and if it's still available. 5 o'clock now and we have 6 more kilometers to go, so it means that we did 3 kilometers in 1 hour. So if we can keep the same pace, we should do the remainder 6 kilometers in about 2 hours, so we should be back in El Chaltén by 7 p.m. So I'm not sure what happened to these trees over here, if they got burnt with some fire or if there was some flooding here. So from the first vlog in El Chaltén, when we went to Mirador de los Condores and Mirador de las Aguilas, I mentioned that there is a way to this hill called Loma del Pliegue Tumbado, and from there you can see the Cerro Torre again and Fitz. So that's the hill you can see here on the right side, and we plan to go there in next few days as well. So hopefully we're gonna get better view of Cerro Torre and surrounding mountains from there. This looks like a nice campsite, almost like a beach. Wow. Alright, it's 5:15 and we're back at the crossroad where we connected from Camp Ponceñot through Laguna Madre and Hija. And it took us around 1 hour to get here from Laguna Torre, and now we have 2 more hours back to El Chaltén this way. So from here we have 5 more kilometers to El Chaltén, which should take less than 2 hours. Since the crossroad, the path followed through the area of smaller trees and shrubs. Even though we have less than 5 kilometers back to El Chaltén, it's still important to sit down and relax your muscles, because it's easy to get overtrained and prone to injury after 2 days of long hiking, and you also need to stay frequently hydrated to avoid the fatigue. So it's 5:41 and we have about 4 kilometers to El Chaltén, and we're getting pretty tired. Our feet are starting to hurt, and when you are tired, especially mentally tired, it's much harder to enjoy nature and surroundings. You kind of stop focusing on what's around you and reality and start kind of living in your mind, like daydreaming. It can be quite dangerous. If you're going down some steep terrain, you can easily slip down because you don't pay so much attention anymore. So that's why the most accidents happen on the way down when people are returning from the mountains, because they're much more tired than on the way up and their alertness goes down. And that's why some people can never fully enjoy nature, because they're always daydreaming, they don't get enough sleep, water or food, and just running on stimulants like coffee, smoking. Only 3 kilometers from this point, which should take about 1 hour. So we have one more little hill in front of us, but we are so tired that it seems really hard to get up here. And then from there, it should be all down the hill to El Chaltén. And once we got up on this hill, there is actually a viewpoint or mirador of Cerro Torre here on the right, and here on the left we keep going down to El Chaltén. So normally you would be able to see Cerro Torre, but obviously it's in the clouds now. So this is where people usually go to take a nice pictures of Cerro Torre if they don't want to go all the way to Laguna Torre. And this is only like less than 1 hour from El Chalten. And as you can see on the table, this is kind of view we should be seeing, but we only see the mountain on the left and all the other ones are in the clouds. After maybe 100 meters from the viewpoint Cerro Torre, we see on maps.me there should be another viewpoint called Dos Condores, which is maybe this hill over here, but we didn't see any path leading there. So here you can see the valley, how the path went through, and there was actually a crossroad where you can choose to go on the left or right, and both ways goes to El Chalten, but this one on the right goes through the mirador of the waterfall. So at this point you can really notice the change in the environment. You don't see as many trees, it's more like rocky and grassland areas here. And back to the topic, why is not everyone enjoying being in nature and hiking? It is not only to do with the physiological requirements, like I mentioned, sleep, the hydration and food. There's also something to do with that we live in a society of distractions and addictions. So if somebody is constantly watching TV and distracting themselves with different addictions, it's really hard to enjoy simple things like nature, because nature doesn't provide as much stimulation as, for example, watching movies or shopping can provide. So here we got to the viewpoint of the waterfall Margarita, and we see this river, which is the same river, Rio Fitzroy, that's coming from the Laguna Torre that we saw before. And we should be able to see some waterfall somewhere down here, but we don't see anything, so I think it probably dried up because of dry weather. Now again, when we look around, you can see there are trees on some of the places here, like some patches of the trees, and also on the other side in the distance you can see there are like trees over there. And I don't understand if that's like just growing near the stream, or is it that people for centuries have been cutting down the trees and not planting them back. That side also you can see trees down there, but all of the hills around are without trees. So I'm not sure if it's like a natural thing that's how they grow, you know, and doesn't get much rain here, or is it the people cut them out. And here we got to the similar table as we saw at the beginning of the Fitzroy hike. So you have some rules and information about this hike. It says if you want to go beyond Mirador Maestri, you must register in the office. So that's probably for hikers or climbers who want to go to Cerro Torre. And here you can see how we did the loop, Fitzroy Cerro Torre. So we started back down in El Chalten, followed this path to the Camp Point Señot. We set up the tent there. And the same day we continued up to Laguna de los Tres, where we saw awesome view of Fitzroy. Came back down the same day, slept overnight at the camp, and next day, which is pretty much today, we continued with this path alongside Laguna Madre and Ica until this crossroad. Then we reached the Laguna Torre and came back down until pretty much here, so we have a little bit more to El Chalten, What a loop, what an adventure. And here I also notice the sign that the use of drones is prohibited, but it doesn't give any reason why. So if any one of you know why flying drones is prohibited here, type down below. So it's almost 7 o'clock and we just got a view of El Chaltén, so we made it almost there, and we still have to return our sleeping bags, so hopefully the outdoor shop is still open, otherwise we'll have to pay for one more night. And yeah, we're really glad to come down here, and now we're gonna rest one day, and then one more day we're gonna hike the Loma del Pliegue Tombado. So now it's a great time to summarize this epic loop, Fitzroy Cerro Torre. So yesterday was definitely a highlight of this trip because of the great weather. We got a clear view of Fitzroy, pretty much till the Camp Ponceñot, and even after till the Laguna de los Tres. It was still epic, a little bit in the clouds, so definitely check out that vlog from yesterday. But even if you don't get a clear view of Fitzroy or Cerro Torre, like today we got a pretty cloudy weather, we didn't see Cerro Torre at all. It's still great to be out there in nature, exploring new trails. So I would definitely recommend this loop for anybody who is into adventures, hiking, nature. And you definitely don't need to be some athlete or experienced hiker to make this loop. And if you start early, 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, you should be able to make it even with a slow pace and many breaks. There is not much elevation to do except of from Camp Ponceñot to Laguna de los Tres. But even that, if you have enough time in the day, you should be able to make it without worries. And the next day the same. We started around 11 both days. We're cooking and eating for 1 hour for lunch breaks, and we're taking pictures all the time. So if we can make it, anybody can make it. So this was definitely the most epic adventure we did in South America, and I would say even in my entire life. Especially the first day, seeing that awesome view of Fitzroy, but also that adventure of camping and seeing the true Patagonian nature made it the best trip ever. And now we're back in our room, finally taking the shoes off. So I hope you enjoy watching this amazing adventure loop. We have 2 more days in El Chaltén. One day will be a small recovery hike, and next day will be a hike to the hill Loma del Pliegue Tombado. So stay tuned for those videos. And after that we're going 1 week to Buenos Aires, and that would pretty much summarize our trip to South America. So I hope you enjoyed watching all the videos. I'll be coming up with an adventure program where you can join us on these adventures soon, so stay tuned for that. And as always, stay healthy
And stay adventurous.